Oh, hey. Hey, quick question for you. When you think of New York City, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Probably isn't road cycling. It's actually a pretty wonderful place for it. Is it suited for a pro? Probably not. But amateurs? We can keep the chain tight.
The main challenge of training in New York is it's difficult to find safe, uninterrupted stretches of road. And frankly, it's not exactly training paradise, but I think it's pretty good out here. And especially when you adopt a mindset where instead of taking specific training ideals or training plans and forcing it upon the city, I find it's really helpful just kind of survey what's available to you and then fit your training around it. If you're a pro though, it's a little bit more complicated because your job is to optimize for training and go as fast as possible on the bike. So what if Pogi wanted to spend some time in New York City? Wanted to get an apartment in the West Village, do brunch and all that, and then still do his training for World Tour stage racing. That'd be pretty tough. So the local climbs, the power that he does would really only be kind of up to 6-minute efforts at most. Then if he's looking to do threshold stuff, you could head up to Harriman or Bear, but at his power, you're not going to get 20-minute efforts. Probably would be closer to 16 or 17 or so. So if he were to do it, I do not think it would be the most successful season for him. And if he were to really try to dial it in, I think it'd be in his best interest to do a lot of what I'm doing right now, spending time indoors on the trainer. But if you want to do it, Pogi, open invitation. You can crash on my couch, catch a show. Let me know. So what do amateurs do? I'd say the main thing that most serious riders do is mornings in the park. It's a lot less busy. The majority of the other people who are there are other serious riders, maybe runners. So you're not quite putting tourists or people who are less familiar with that in danger by speeding around. I did the morning thing 2 years ago when I was first getting into it, first getting into racing and training. It's great for training, but because you're waking up at 5 or 6 every single morning, like 2 p.m. rolls around, you're totally starving and exhausted. It was pretty difficult to take advantage of everything else that the city has to offer. And because the sole reason that I'm in New York City is not to ride my bike as a Category 3 amateur cyclist, I've shifted a majority of my training to after work. It's busier, but I find you can very reliably do endurance, maybe low tempo, so zone 2, low zone 3, in a traditional 6-zone model, as long as you're very aware of what's going on around you. That aligns well with one of the main reasons that I ride, just to get out and see the world and interact with the city. So the fact that that's a requirement, being aware, to being able to safely ride in the park after work, makes it further enjoyable for me. If I'm looking to go a little bit faster though, some options that I have, one specifically in the city, is Harlem Hill. Harlem Hill is on the north end of the park, which is a lot quieter, not as many tourists there, and then also probably averages like 4 or 5%, so you can do bigger watts without going particularly fast. What I like to do though are kind of high zone 4, zone 5 efforts up the hill, stay on the pedals in the little loop around it. So you're looking at a surge of, I don't know, a minute, minute 5 or so, and then staying on the pedals for 2.5 minutes or 3 minutes in the loop around, and then doing that like 7 or so times. I also live pretty close to the GW, so it only takes me 35 minutes or so to get across the bridge into northeast New Jersey, which gives me access to the 9W, which is good, consistent road, uninterrupted largely by cars and traffic lights, but it's pretty flat, rolling. So not great for zone 4 or above, Kind of tough to be squeezing it out 400 watts doing 110 RPM, but it's pretty good for sweet spot and threshold efforts. And in the spirit of taking what you're given, if you're looking to add in a little bit more intensity, one specific workout I like to do, kind of tempo or sweet spot surges. It's like 4.5 minutes of tempo, surge for 30 seconds, and repeat that 3 times, maybe 4 times. We also have Alpine that's very close, about an hour from where I live. And this is a grade up to 7 or so minute hill. That's close to the city and consistent and safe. And then on weekends, when you're not as constrained by time or daylight, there are tons of great roads. And honestly, for most amateurs, kind of the best thing you can do is just ride your bike a bunch, permitting you're not overtraining. And the roads out here are great. There's tons of opportunity to do that. And then there are local hills that are great for up to 7-minute or 8-minute efforts. And then if you're looking to make big days out of it, do consistent threshold work, you can head up to Harriman or Bear, do longer 20-minute or so intervals. So it's not quite the same plug and play type training scenario that you might have in California or Colorado, maybe some places out east like Vermont or North Carolina. But when you figure out the sacrifices that you need to make and how to make it work, which I think is pretty representative of what it's like figuring out how to live in New York City in most aspects, you're able to train in a pretty wonderful place for riding a bike. And then on top of that, you're able to take advantage of everything else that the city has to offer. So I can keep the chain tight out here. If you're Pogi, you might not be able to, but I can. Peace.